Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. So overall this week we had a situation mainly that, Facebook stopped the world by going down, Instagram, WhatsApp as well. I know most of you guys in the United States don't use WhatsApp for messaging, use text messaging, but outside of the most important place in the world, everybody else mostly uses WhatsApp. Zuckerberg lost $6 billion in a matter of hours. Supposedly it was a DNS issue. I don't know if you guys remember, before YouTube deleted the Day Trading Academy channel where I always uploaded these videos, I talked to you guys about how the next 10 years we're going to have a lot of social problems. We're going to have a lot of economic problems, natural disasters, all kinds of things. And I think we're going to have a lot of problems with infrastructure. And I think this problem that happened with Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, where it went down for about 6 hours, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that, right? We're already seeing the power outages in places like China. The second largest exporter of food in the world, and the Netherlands, is also having a problem with the energy prices. And it's just going to get to a point where I think you're going to start seeing shortages, and then the infrastructure, things like, I don't know if the internet's going to go out, but I'm just going to say it. The power might go out for a while, then it'll come back. Then the power will come out for a while, then it'll come back, and then all of a sudden it just won't come back anymore. So we'll see if this kind of continues to escalate. The other major thing this week was the debt limit in the United States. On Thursday, they officially announced that they had a provisional agreement to be able to extend the debt limit to December. They're going to increase that to be able to go ahead and pay our bills. Now, the Senate Republican leader McConnell wrote President Biden saying that he's not going to assist the Democrats in raising the debt limit again, which is going to be a showdown in December. Other than that, U.S. stocks mostly higher for the week. Obviously, it has to do with, the world's not going to shut down because the U.S. can't pay its debts. Overseas market news, European markets were mostly higher. The indices, most of the main indices around the world, they pretty much track each other. You can put it on a map, and you can put it on a chart and actually see that. So European markets were mostly higher. Russia taking the crown there in Europe, even though, part of Russia is in Asia. Latin American and Canadian markets were mixed. Canada, if you guys remember from last week, I call Canada, the new Communist Republic of Canada. They went up 1.51%. Africa and the Middle East, mostly positive as well. South Africa, about 2.5% positive. And then in the far, far east, we have Indonesia at 4.06% positive, most positive of all. In crypto and Bitcoin news, Coinbase, which is the biggest crypto exchange in the entire United States, was hacked. 6,000 people had their accounts hacked. They exploited a flaw in the SMS, the text message recovery process. They took access to the account, started transferring money. And this is what I always told you guys about crypto. It's not that you can't make money. It's not that the idea isn't amazing, because I love the idea behind cryptos, right? Behind the fact that they're not going to control the financial system, and it's for everybody. It's not just controlled by a few. But I just don't think that it's going to end up that way. And so, there's a new game as well called Axie Infinity, which is based on cryptos as well, which I'm getting involved in. This is, if you guys are new to cryptos, this is what's called the hard wallet. So literally your money is stored here so nobody can get to it. And so if they're going to hack, they have to go in and you actually have to press a code and all kinds of things. Just be careful, because obviously, we had that exchange in Canada that literally the guy stole $200 million from, if you guys remember, that exchange that went down. We have other places in South Korea. I mean, these are legitimate countries that have the rule of law. And, we're not talking about Colombia or Pakistan or, Nigeria or Bangladesh, where kind of these shady things happen all the time. So just keep that in mind. Central Bank of Spain sent a letter to El Salvador warning to the danger of their economy, the new law that they have in regards to Bitcoin, that it can destabilize their financial system. Typical bureaucrats not wanting Bitcoin to be successful. And then also the Fed, which is the central bank in the United States, is preparing a review to launch a review about a central bank digital currency that could render cash, and obviously that would render privacy obsolete. And this is what I always told you guys years ago that I thought was going to happen. I kind of believe this conspiracy theory where the CIA, they never found the founder, right, of Bitcoin. So the CIA kind of created the system, they put it in to kind of work all the bugs out. And then at the end of the day, this was just literally a test to be able to launch all the government coins. And then once they launched the government coins, obviously, then we're all screwed because privacy is over. Other than that, Dogecoin had a great run, but now it's Shiba Inu up 242.78%, exploding to the upside. That's the new, I guess we can call it like meme crypto. That exploded quite higher. Other than that, Bitcoin went up 13.26% to over 54,000. If I'm not mistaken, that's a high that wasn't reached since May of last year. Range commodities are soaring to an all-time high. Obviously, this has to do with the economy's opening, demand skyrocketing, and the supply constraints, right? We have all these production chain issues, container ships that are meant to be somewhere that are not supposed to let me start that over. Container ships that are not where they're supposed to be because of this whole COVID situation. And out of the 23 energy, metal, and crop futures contracts, they all rose 1.1% on Monday, topping a previous record in 2011. Now, what does this mean? Everything's about to get a whole lot more expensive. The inflation is definitely not over. Other than that, the commodities have surged 90%, reaching a 4-year low since March of 2020. Nat gas prices have exploded in Europe. This is a big problem because in Europe, they use natural gas to heat their homes. They're on the northern hemisphere. They get a little bit colder in the winter. And it's equivalent to the price of $230 oil. And you guys can see the chart there just to kind of give you a representation. I mean, just... You guys, I always do these videos because I want you guys to understand how things work. And obviously, you guys have investments, or you want to put your money somewhere to work. And obviously, these things are important to know and to understand. And so, if you have a situation where the natural gas, everything is going up, meat is going up by 30%, food is going up by 30%, rents, even in the US, are going up 10, 20, 30%. You guys remember the report I gave you last week where Berlin was expropriating apartments, going back to their communism ways, from the largest real estate company in Europe to fix the rent controls because the rents in Berlin are exploding. So if all the commodities which we consume, sugar, everything, energy, coal, everything is exploding, then everything is going to get a lot more expensive. If everything gets a lot more expensive, the consumer is not going to be able to use that extra money that they had before to use it to spend their money in the economy. And the majority of the economies around the world, especially industrialized economies, which is most economies outside of Africa, the consumer is the majority of the economy. In the United States, it's almost 70%, 70. So if the consumer isn't spending money, what does that mean? The economy isn't moving. What does that mean? We're walking into probably another depression or a recession. Other than that, U.S. crude went up 2.56% to 75.88. I just passed that whole depression remark, right? Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna walk into a depression. Like, well, let's see what's happening with oil. Other than that, international Brent went up 1.52% to 79.28. Precious metals, if you guys remember, I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, we had a little bit of a dip in the precious metals. I told you guys now was the time to buy. Not that I'm telling you to buy, right? This isn't financial advice or trading advice. You guys should do your own research to where to put your money. But we already had a great recovery. Gold for the week is down 0.22% to 1,758, where silver went up 0.48% to 2278. After 5 years ago, when they reported the Panama Papers, where all of the politicians and a lot of public officials, do some shady stuff to not pay their taxes, now we have the Pandora Papers, 11.9 million records of over 330 politicians and public officials in 91 countries and territories, except the U.S. Not the U.S. No, we're not going to report those. We're going to keep those hidden. Putin's in there, all this stuff. Obviously, at the end of the day, the elites do whatever they want, and then you and I, the peons, are stuck paying the bill, right? That's why they always say, let's tax the rich. But the rich have the money to go ahead and figure out ways to not pay taxes. That's why they are rich. So who ends up paying all the taxes? The middle class. Outside of that, the U.S. debt ceiling, I mentioned to you guys that agreement was made, a provisional agreement until December. One of the ideas that they came up with was to create a $1 trillion platinum coin. Platinum is a precious metal like silver and gold, for example. And so they would put the $1 trillion coin at the reserve, at the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank in the United States, as an asset swap. And then that would result in an extra $1 trillion to be able to cover the extra spending bills that they want to submit into Congress. However, a lot of analysts and the Treasury Secretary said that it's just a financial gimmick, that they can't really do that. On Wednesday as well, New Zealand decided to go ahead and increase their interest rates for their central bank. They're combining. What's the right way to say this in English? I always do the videos in Spanish first, so I always get confused when I got to think in English. They're joining. That's the word. They're joining South Korea and Norway as the first countries to go ahead and increase their interest rates. And obviously this is important because the only tools that the monetary policy ruling people in the central bank have to be able to help the economy if we are in a recession, one of the things is interest rates, because they drop the interest rates, that moves consumption. Again, remember, the big part of the economy, and then obviously that helps the economy. Well, if a lot of these economies have 0% interest rates or negative interest rates, how are they going to help the economy recover? Other than that, in economic news, weekly jobless claims fell sharply last week after the enhanced unemployment for COVID expired. It was still below the analyst estimates. However, they added just 194,000 jobs in September, even though the expectation was 500,000. So even though it seems like things are moving, the numbers don't show that the economy is actually doing very well. In corporate news, UK biggest retailer Tesco, their shares went up 6% on Wednesday after they upgraded their outlook. Their profit went up 16%. And this is part of the reason, for example, why everybody is for the lockdowns, right? Because if companies are making more money, why wouldn't they want to continue the lockdowns? Moderna fell almost 9% on Wednesday after European Nordic countries suspended the use of their vaccine for young people. And a lot of investors are also worried about the COVID-19 pill, the little pill that Merck or Pfizer came out with. They eventually think that people will take the pill instead of taking the vaccine, which in turn would hurt the vaccine sales for Moderna. Trade news, skyrocketing. This is actually pretty interesting. Okay, this is what I was telling you guys about the energy prices, which is also affecting China. Skyrocketing energy prices are forcing a vast network of Dutch glass houses, the Europe's largest, to scale back, meaning the second largest exporter of food in the world, which is the Netherlands, by value, right, by the amount of money that they sell the products for, has to scale back the production of food because the price of energy is getting so high. They have about 10,000 hectares of food, or about 25,000 acres, and energy accounts for up to 30% of the cost of the glass houses. So just think of a house made out of glass, and then they can regulate the temperature and other things, and then they grow the food inside. So what does that mean? The inflation for food, the increase in food prices have already been exploding, right? Meat, I think, is up 30%. Ben and Jerry's announced that the prices for their products are going to go 25%. Even the shipping companies like FedEx and UPS and all of these are raising their prices as well. Well, now we have the second largest exporter of food by value scaling back their production because they can't afford the exploding prices of energy. So you see how we connect the dots there, right? So the prices of food are probably going to get even more explosive here in the future. The Commerce Department on Tuesday said that the U.S. trade deficit hit a new all-time high, went up by 4.2% in August. This is not good. A country is always better exporting more than it imports. The United States, unfortunately, is in the other situation. And then in technology, University of Arizona engineers developed a new type of wearable device called a biosymbiotic device. It's used for monitoring and treatment of diseases, testing new drugs, in addition to tracking personal health. Not like that needs to be private. And other than that, they're basically just like think of it like a wristband, where you just put here or here, and they literally are charged by the energy of your body. They don't even have to charge them, which is actually pretty cool. In investment news, another country suffering the energy crisis is China. They have a situation where 57% of the energy in China is through coal. Now, the problem is that the price of coal has gone up by 3 times since the beginning of the pandemic. And so they have limits on the amount that they can sell the actual energy for. So you have these power plants in China that they can't produce energy because they have to produce it at a loss because they can only sell it for a certain amount because the price of coal has skyrocketed by 3 times. So a lot of the factories in China are starting to shut down because they don't have enough energy to be able to produce because of the rules that the government makes. 2 lessons here. One, the government never makes good decisions, right? They always cause the problem and then pass more laws to fix it. Ergo, the energy restrictions in China where they have to sell it for a certain price. And two, the cost of everything is about to get a lot higher. Even products that we normally buy, you can't find, which, China's kind of the factory of the world. So they're even shutting down factories because of the problem with the energy situation. Prepare yourselves. Shiba Inu. Other than that, China Evergrande, the shares were halted on the Hong Kong exchange on Monday. There's shares of another property development firm called Hobson that was suspended on the exchange on the Hang Seng, which is another city in China. And they're saying that they're pending a major transaction where it is agreed to acquire the stock of another company. So we'll see if that is actually not a bigger problem than what they're claiming to be. And the valuation of Elon Musk's SpaceX is skyrocketed $100 billion because they sold a bit more shares to existing investors. Other than that, in international events, the La Palma volcano is increasing in magnitude and earthquakes. And in addition to that, the main vent has exploding a lot more lava and thicker lava as well. It's already destroyed 1,000 buildings and acres and acres and acres of land. And in unusual facts this week, Brazil is now the second country globally to pass 600,000 COVID-19 deaths. Bolsonaro has obviously drawn the ire of a lot of experts because he hasn't put in any measures to control the virus, even though, for example, Singapore, is seeing an explosion as well of infection cases, even though they're one of the highest vaccinated countries in the world. 70% of the Brazilians have received the first vaccination dose compared to 65% in the U.S., which passed 600,000 deaths in June. That's the news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. And